Alright, so in this lesson, we want to do simplifying algebraic expressions, but with fractions. So at this point, you should have now done all the factorization, and now we are going to learn how do you simplify algebraic expression that has fractions. There are some rules that you need to understand. So I'm quickly going to go through all of this, but you will also see this. We're going to do a few examples in this video. So the first rule number one over here, it says that if you have many terms by the numerator and you have one term by the denominator, what you can do is then split the fraction. So I'll give you an example here. If you have something like 2x plus 2 over 2, you have many terms by the numerator, which is above the division line. You have one term by the denominator, which is below the division line. What you can do for this is just split and say 2x, this term, put that over the denominator, plus 2, put it over that denominator. Very important that you understand this. Number two, if you have many terms on the numerator and the denominator, what you have to do is then factorize. So let's look at that one. So it says that if I have something like, let's say 4x plus x, and at the bottom I have like x squared plus x. So I have many terms. What I look for is to factorize. So I factorize the top part by taking out a common factor, which we have already now studied. We know how to take out a common factor for both, and that's what you want to do actually. Now, if you have one term by the numerator as well as the denominator, and there are things that look the same, whereby one of the things is by the numerator and the other thing is by the denominator, then you can cancel. Okay, so for example, this one that we just did there, we say, okay, initially you have two terms by the numerator, you have one term by the denominator. That's what you have when you start. But after factorizing, the brackets, remember the brackets are going to glue the terms. So you have one term now, and you have one term here. Let's put that bracket that is supposed to be there. So you have one term, one term. Now this rule number 3 says that if you have one term, and there are things that look alike, so one of them is there by the numerator and the other one is by the denominator, they look the same. Okay, now you can just cancel them because they look the same. There's an x here and there's an x here. One is numerator, one is denominator. Cancel those. All right. The fourth thing that you have to understand, or the fourth rule, is if you have division signs. So if you have a division sign while solving algebraic expression, all you want to do is change those into a multiplication. So for example, if I have 2 over 3 2 over 3 divided by, let's make it 2 over 3. Now, if you have this, what you want to do is you want to change this division into a multiplication. So this will look something like 2 over 3, which is this initially. Now I change the division into a multiplication, and I need to swap the numerator and the denominator around. So that means that the 3 is a denominator, it's going to become a numerator, while the other 3 is a numerator, while the other 2, the 2 is a numerator, now it's going to become a denominator. That's what's very important over there. Now, you have one term at the top. This multiplication, we all know that this can easily be rewritten as 2 times 3 over 3 times 2. So these look the same. So that's why we say this is one term and that is one term at the bottom. Now remember rule number 3, if you have things that look alike, one is by the numerator, one is the denominator, all you can do is just cancel those things that look the same. So the 3 and the 3 are going to cancel out, and the 2 and the 2 are going to cancel out, and when you do cancel, you're going to be left with 1. So you can try that out into a calculator. You're going to say 2 over 3 divided by 2 over 3. That's going to give you 1. and this is y. Very important. Now let's practice some questions. The first question over there, as we can all see, we are given x to the power of 2 minus x over x. Now what you want to do with this is obviously follow the rules. The rule number 1, many terms on the numerator, one term by the denominator, split the fraction. So we're going to split the fraction. So this is going to become x squared all over x minus x all over x. That's how we are splitting the fraction. Now x to the power of 2 divided by x is going to be x, because x to the power of 2 is the same thing as having x times x. So this is like x times x over x. Now one of the x's are going to cancel and you're going to be left with that x. Or you can understand this using exponent laws, saying x to the power of 2 divided by x, the denominator or the bases are the same, and you are dividing, so you subtract the exponents. So 2 minus 1 is going to be 1, so this is x to the power of 1. Right, then here by the second term, we have that these are looking the same. This is one term, and numerator, denominator, so we cancel all of them, so we left with minus 1. Do not forget the minus 1. Right, let's look at the other one, number 2 here. We have the same thing, similar. So I'm going to write 4m squared all over 4m squared minus, plus, you take the sign at the top, plus 4m all over 4m squared. Now what you want to do is, well, these look exactly the same, so they cancel out, and I'm left with 1. The 4's here cancel. When you cancel, also just check, sign, number, letter. So you start with the signs. Positive gives us a positive. Then you follow by the numbers. The 4 and the 4 are going to cancel out. And now the letters. It is very important you understand that you have an m at the top. This is m divided by m times m. M squared is m times m. So these m's are going to cancel out such that you have an m at the bottom. So at the top you'll be left with a 1, and at the bottom you are left with an m. Also, you could have done this using exponent laws, which is the easiest. You say, well, m divided by m to the power of 2. What I will do is say that the bases are the same and they divide, so I have to subtract the exponents. Now you're going to say 2 minus 1. So you write 2 minus 1, and you know that answer to this is 1. But then you started with the number at the bottom. So the m to the power of the answer, which is 1, it has to be at the bottom of the division line. When you look at this one at the top, you started with the 2, and the 2 is the numerator. The base of this x is a numerator. So you say 2 minus 1, and the answer was 1 still, but now the x is going to be at the top because you started with the x that is at the top. Here you started with the x that is at the bottom, so you're going to have the m that was at the bottom, so you're going to have the m at the bottom here. Unless you said m divided by m to the power of 2, and you said it's 1 minus 2, so 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So you will have 1 plus m to the minus 1. And you don't want your answers with negative exponents, so you need to take this to the bottom of the division line to get 1 plus 1 over m. All right, just trying to put exponent laws together. Some of you probably did not do this yet, but if you have, just make sure you understand how to solve this using exponent laws. But if you haven't, just understand that m divided by m squared, that means that you have to cancel some of the m's. There's one m at the top that cancels with the one m at the bottom, and you're left with an m at the bottom. Okay, let's practice more questions. Now, number 3, we have initially many terms at the top, which is 3 terms, and you have 2 terms at the bottom of the division line. So what you want to do here is you want to factorize. That's the rule that we have learned over here, rule number 2. Okay, so we are applying that. Now I'm going to factorize. This is a trinomial. You should be able to factorize a trinomial by now. And at the bottom, I'm going to factorize as well. So the trinomial factorize, you're going to have x, and then you're going to have plus 2, x minus 2. So x minus 2, x minus 3. And at the bottom, we have 2x minus 3. Now we have one term. So we have one term, and the bracket x minus 3 look the same as the one at the top. So they cancel out. So our answer is going to be x minus 2 over 2. This is your final answer, but you can split if you want to. You can say this is x over 2 minus 2 over 2. Then it simplifies to x over 2 minus 1. That's also okay. Now, question number 4, many terms at the top, and then you have many terms at the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to factorize. So we're going to factorize the top part, of which we know how to factorize. This is difference of cubes. So we open two brackets and we say the cube root of that is going to be 3p minus 2. And I'm going to get the square root, which is 9p squared. And then I'm going to get positive 4. I'll multiply this. I'm going to get minus 6p, but I must take the opposite sign. That's how we factorize that. So it's very important. If you haven't learned how to factorize, go back and learn that. Now at the bottom, we first have to check if we can take out a we have to check if we can take out a common factor. And there is a common factor here, and the common factor will be 6. So we take out the common factor, which is 6, and you are left with, no, maybe not even 6. Let me see, with the 27, we have 9 times 3. 6 times, there's a 9. Okay, should be 3. So we take out a 3. Then here we're going to be left with a 9p squared plus, taking out a 3, you left with a 6p. Took out a 3, you are left with a 4 for the 12. So that's the highest common factor between all the numbers. So the common factor is 3. So you check when you multiply back, you get 27, you get 18, and you get 12. So that is the highest common factor over there. So now we took that out. But then we noticed that the bracket is still a trinomial that can be factorized. And, well, we don't know whether it can be factorized. I just saw now that this is actually the same as that. So we can just easily cancel these. Okay. But usually sometimes those trinomials will factorize. In this case, they just look like this. The bottom looks like the top, so we cancel those out. So our final answer would be 3p minus 2 all over 3. So you can leave it like this, or you can continue a little bit more, say 3p over 3 minus 2 over 3. Cancel these out, and you're going to be left with a p minus 2 over 3. Right, that was a bit easier. Number 5. We want to also factorize this. What we see is that we have many terms at the top and many terms at the bottom. So let's factorize this. But important, you have a division sign. Right, let's say we factorize the top part. Factorizing the top part, you will get something like x. What are we looking for? We are looking for the 4. So we're going to have a x plus 2y bracket. And you're going to have a x minus 2y, x minus 2y. That's what you will have when you factorize that. Okay. All right. Then at the bottom, you factorize, you're going to be left with an x minus 2. Now, change the division into a multiplication. Take the denominator and make it now the numerator. Take the numerator, make it the denominator, which is x minus 2y. Now leave this as it is, which is x bracket x plus 2, and you have x minus 2. We factorize the difference of 2 squares over 4. Now cancel, because you now have one term. This cancels with that. We have this, it cancels with that, and that's pretty much it. We don't have anything else that is canceling. So I'm going to have the bracket x minus 2y, x minus 2, x plus 2 all over 8. That's what you have as your final answer. You can just leave it like this.